Mega Man is gonna dance, 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 dance to the radio on this episode of Obscure Old Games. Hi, I'm Retrogaming Puppet, and this is Obscure Old Games. This episode we're continuing the Mega Manniversary with a game where the Battle Network series decided it wanted to be a little bit more like the mainline Mega Man series. For those unaware, the Mega Man Battle Network games are a series of kind of tactical RPGs that was mostly exclusive to the Game Boy Advance. It was, to my understanding, basically replaced by the Mega Man Star Force series on the DS. But admittedly, these are two areas of the Blue Bomber's history that we aren't especially well versed in. At any rate, Mega Man largely lived on handhelds during the 6th generation, with a whopping 15 games appearing on portable systems of the era, and that's not including the Pokemon-style double releases of the 5 later Battle Network games, which would bring the total to 20. By contrast, there were only 7 released on home consoles, and of those, 3 were compilations, leaving only 4 original new Mega Man games on home systems of the 6th generation: Mega Man X7, X8, Command Mission, and the game we're talking about this episode, Mega Man Network Transmission. And of those, only 2 are traditional 2D style games, Network Transmission and X8. Of course, 20 Mega Man games in a single generation is an embarrassment of riches by today's standards. So far, we've seen 2 Mega Man games on this generation, and they're both compilations. Be that as it may, back in the 6th generation, the place for 2D gaming really was considered to be handhelds, so it's kind of a miracle that we got even 2 2D-styled Mega Man games on home systems. Mega Man Network Transmission was developed by Arika, the folks behind the Street Fighter EX series, and published by Capcom in 2003, on March 6th in Japan, June 16th in North America, and June 27th in Europe. Like I said, it's part of the Battle Network series, coming between parts 4 and 5, but played more like a traditional Mega Man with some RPG elements added. You run, jump, and slide like most other Mega Man titles, but the first thing you need to know about this game is that while yes, you do get weapons from bosses, you also get them from regular enemies. Any enemy can drop a chip, which the human boy Lan uses to augment Mega Man, who in this series is a computer program, not a robot. Kinda like Tron. And anyways, these are sorta like souls in Castlevania Aria of Sorrow. They can have all kinds of different effects, from weapons to healing to temporary invincibility and more, which is admittedly pretty neat. But there are some catches. First of all these weapons share the same weapon energy bar, though it does refill automatically instead of requiring the traditional pickup. Second, despite that, each chip only has a certain number of uses per instance, meaning if you run out, you're out, even if you have weapon energy. Third, you can't really choose the chips you get. You have a folder that contains 20 chips, and at the start of each level, 5 are given to you at random. Now, you can mark 1 as a favorite and lock it in, but the rest will still be random selections of the remaining 19. When your custom bar at the top of the screen fills up, you can press Z to get a new selection, but they're still going to be random. You also have to level up your weapons by collecting multiples of the chips, either from defeated enemies or buying them from the merchant, again, like the Castlevania Sorrow games. Now, this wouldn't be that big of a deal if it was like traditional Mega Man or Mega Man X games and the weapons were only needed in specific situations, but unfortunately, this game's version of the Mega Buster is the weakest of all incarnations, and its rate of fire is sluggish at best, and you can't use the charge shot until you level it up at least once. Now, you can also level up the strength of the default Buster, but even then, it's not really worth using compared to the cannon power-up, which you start with and is dropped by a common enemy, so it levels up pretty quickly. And that makes it hard to even consider using the standard Buster, except in a pinch. Finally, there's the level structure. If you're a Mega Man fan, it'll probably bug you that this game is linear. I mean, it's kinda sorta a Metroidvania, but even by the standards of that subgenre, it's also very linear. Instead of deciding which boss will give you the best weapon to deal with other bosses, or having to hunt around the map for them, you're instead told exactly who the next boss is and exactly where to find them. Then you go and find them, and fight them in what tend to be pretty shallow encounters. Yeah, look here, I'm not trying to beat up on this game or anything. I mean, it's not Mega Man Soccer or, God forbid, Rock Board, but for everything this game gets right, it gets something else wrong. The whole feel of this game is honestly that it was skewed towards a younger audience, which is still something that I find weird. I mean, when I was a kid, there weren't really kids games unless you counted games that were literally made for preschoolers. There were mostly just games. And I get making games that are thematically appropriate for kids, but literally having the floor appear a certain way to guide you in the right direction, or having informational text boxes appear all over the place even when you do something as simple as collect an item box, is kinda insulting to kids. Kids are smart and can handle deep and challenging games. As for the music, the soundtrack by Super Sweep is nothing to write home about, which is unfortunate because that particular game music band has done some soundtracks I dig. Visually, the game doesn't look terrible, but it does look pretty samey from area to area. They all look like the inside of a computer, and while that does change a bit from level to level, it's the same core aesthetic, while other games and other Mega Man series change dramatically from stage to stage. In spite of all of this, and I know I've talked about the game's faults at length, it isn't what I would call bad. It's playable, and once you get used to the quirks of the chip system, it's kind of a fun variation on a traditional weapon system, even if the randomness remains frustrating. Still, the variety of weapons and power-ups is pretty fun, and the game gives you a button to use your equipped weapon separate from the button to fire the Mega Buster. And while yes, other games as early as X4 did have that, more recent ones have not. Network transmission is also pretty breezy, coming in under 10 hours, which is a fine length for a game of this type. And I have to give it credit for being a competently executed 2D action platformer from a AAA developer on a home console when that type of thing was decidedly rare. Ultimately, the biggest sin Network Transmission commits is being a Mega Man game that doesn't deliver exactly what you expect from a Mega Man game. But it's still a perfectly serviceable action platformer, and well, if you're a Mega Man Mega fan or a GameCube devotee, it's only 10 to 15 bucks, so grab it. And that does it. I'm Roger the Retrogaming Puppet, thank you so much for joining me, and join me next month when we'll take a break from the Mega Manniversary and celebrate the Halloween season, right here on Obscure Old Games.
rockman.exe